Yo, what's going on guys? It's Dude here, and today we're back with a brand new video. This time around we're going to be covering the Chevrolet cars in Gran Turismo 7. There's a few classic models that I'm going to be covering in a later video, which is going to be like an American classics video. But as for a vast majority of the Chevrolet cars in this game, they will be featured in this video. These multi-car setup videos definitely take a long time to make, so if you guys could leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy the setups and or the production of the video, I would greatly appreciate it, as this really helps me in the YouTube algorithm and it helps me reach out to more people. The first car I'm going to be talking about today is, of course, the Chevrolet Corvette C7 GR3 car. Contrary to popular belief, this isn't actually the GT3 version of the Corvette C7, but a fictional GR3 model that's made to be very reminiscent of the real-life model. It's always a super steady and reliable car with good straight line speed, and on BOP, I think it's the strongest American car at the moment. I could be wrong on that, but for most of GT Sport and GT7's life, it always seems to be the best GR3 car from the United States. For daily races with that BOP power and weight settings, when tuning is available, this car does benefit from a proper setup more than a lot of other GR3 cars, due to the base car having an abundance of corner entry understeer, which can be dialed out with a setup. Not only will this setup reduce that understeer, but it will also significantly improve rear end traction, which is one of the Corvette's main weaknesses at low speed. Maxed out, this is also one of the better GR3 options as well. The improved cornering paired with the solid acceleration and low drag for a front engine car puts the lap times right up there with cars like the Porsche 911 RSR and Ferrari 458 Italia. When compared to its base performance in GT Sport, the Corvette C7 GR3 is even stronger in GT7. The question now becomes, when do we get the C8 version? Next up, we have the Corvette C6 ZR1. At one point, the third fastest road car in all of GT7, even without the available engine swap, the C6 ZR1 has always been a standout. In 2025, its overall cornering grip isn't quite as good as it used to be. But in true American fashion, this car substituted handling for lots and lots of horsepower. By equipping the Bugatti Chiron engine and selling your soul to the devil, you can now have the fastest American road car in the game around a road course, as well as the best rear-wheel drive car to be equipped with the Chiron engine by a noticeable margin. Understandably, this car is extremely difficult to drive. Me saying that you need to be patient on the throttle is a gross understatement. However, as long as you keep the car going in the right direction, on power-based tracks, you will annihilate your competition. This suspension setup also works great for the non-swap version of this car as well, which is an extremely fast and impressive car in its own right, and my preferred method of driving the C6. Just know that you do opt in for the swap, everyone in open lobbies, including me, will hate you. Next up, we have the Corvette C7 ZR1. The C6 was downright dominant, and definitely a tough act to follow, so it's no surprise that Chevy came to play with the C7 model. The C7 flies through the high-speed corners and feels easy to drive on corner entry compared to the C6. If there's one area this car struggles with the most, it's putting down the power in low-speed corners. This trait single-handedly prevents this from being able to confidently match the lap times of the fastest European rear-wheel drive options. However, when compared to the unswapped C6, it's a couple of tenths faster at Trial Mountain, and on fast-flowing tracks will dominate almost any lobby. A true American beast with crazy aero and crazy power. Our first foray into the mid-engine Corvette is the C8 base model. While not a Z06 or ZR1, do not underestimate this car's ability to hang with the ZR1 older brothers. When fully upgraded, the C8 gets over 1,000 horsepower, and the mid-engine layout helps with corner balance in high-speed corners. The main drawback of the C8 is its bizarre understeering behavior when going through low-speed corners. It feels very sluggish and unlike any other mid-engine car turning into low-speed corners, and this definitely negatively affects its lap time. That lap time, however, is still extremely fast, and only a couple tenths off the ZR1 times of the previous generation cars. I can't even begin to imagine how fast the C8 ZR1 will be if the base model is this friggin' fast already. So that begs the question, how does the C7 base model fare? Well, the standard Corvette C7 I have fond memories of back when it was brand new in Gran Turismo 6. I was worried that this car would be made redundant by the aforementioned C7 ZR1 model. But while the ZR1 is a balls to the walls maxed out weapon, the standard Stingray model will actually fare much better in the 800 to 750 pp range. At 800, this car doesn't lose any of its horsepower, which again is in and around 1000, but also retains the same C7 stability entering corners. Where this car falls short is once again the rear end traction coming out of low speed corners, which leaves a lot to be desired. I would stick to tracks with mostly long sweepers rather than tight technical zones. Either way, this car is a beast and can easily outshine its European competition between 700 and 800 pp. Well, let's take a break from Corvettes for a little while and get into the Camaro ZL1. Possibly the most capable non-engine swapped muscle car in GT7, the first Camaro on our list is one of my personal favorites to run at 800 pp. The handling in almost every situation is nearly perfect, and the car does a great job masking its relatively heavy weight. Typically, cars with lots of downforce can cover up their heavier weight well in high-speed corners, but less so in low-speed corners or on the brakes. The ZL1 Camaro doesn't have this issue. If you do have some issues putting down the power at low speed, this is a good candidate for running traction control on 1 or 2, as NA cars lose little to no lap time from running traction control on 1, something that can't be said about the turbocharged competitors across the pond. In the battle of the American muscle versus tuners, this car makes a serious statement for the red, white, and blue, and 800 pp lobbies will never look the same again now that this setup is in the public domain. But what about the Camaro SS? Another car that took me way too long to finally try, but now that I did, holy shit, it's good. Although it's not the top trim for the Camaro in GT7, Chevrolet did not cheap out on the SS version. The downforce values are impressive, and the overall balance feels easy going into corners. When you take the price into consideration, this car is one of the best performance bargains in GT7, full stop. Its main drawback, of course, is its ability to put down the power, meaning it's not really the best option for tracks with many low-speed acceleration zones. While the ZL1 is likely the more desirable choice for most people, the ZL1 has to be detuned slightly to get below 800 pp. The Camaro SS is below 800 pp maxed out. And while it just barely missed out on my top 50 road cars list, it's a great candidate for the lower pp classes, as its main weakness, low speed traction, is less apparent when run with less horsepower. If you haven't tried this already, go now, you will not be disappointed. Venturing back into race car territory, we have the Corvette C7 GR4. Not typically known for its dominance in the GR4 category, especially on BOP, I was skeptical the C7 GR4 had what it took to wow me. After a considerable amount of driving, I found the car to be serviceable, but still guilty of many of the shortcomings it has stock. With this setup equipped, it's balanced on entry. Like many of the other Chevys, it tends to spin the tires coming out of the slow corners. Unfortunately, removing rear downforce or adding a stiffer rear frequency will make the traction worse, meaning I opted for max downforce and max stability on this build. The 50-50 weight distribution combined with a stable setup makes this car a serviceable option, but certainly not dominant. Next up, we have the Chevrolet C4 ZR1 with the engine swap. But again, the suspension diff can be used without the swap as well. The C4 ZR1 has all the ingredients of a car I should praise to the moon. A fantastic corner entry balance, a charismatic and compliant chassis that has just enough body roll to feel playful, a fantastic powertrain especially when swapped, and solid low-speed traction for a classic car. The thing that prevents this car from ultimately being useful has nothing to do with the car itself, but its extremely high PP rating. For a car in and around 820 pp, the lap time potential is a little bit on the slow side, struggling to get into the 141s at Trial Mountain, something many sub 800 pp cars can do routinely. This may be grounds to potentially opt out of the engine swap, but I decided to go for that kind of build today. If you're looking for an American car built before 1990, this is likely your best bet as far as lap time goes, and while it's not great for higher pp racing, detuned for the lower performance points range, it can definitely turn some heads. Going back a couple more decades, the next car I'm going to be featuring today is the Corvette C3 with its available engine swap. This car was basically a spaceship when it was new, but vehicle dynamics wise, these old American platforms typically fall apart when scrutinized by modern standards, at least in GT7. While the C3 certainly is overwhelmed by the power of its engine swap, the corner entry and mid-corner stability is fantastic. This setup utilizes the max ride height, max initial torque strategy that improves the traction significantly. This will hurt the overall cornering performance, though it's a small price to pay for the improved traction, and the lap time certainly backs this up. If you add some weight, this car can be an insanely fast 750 pp build as well, but even maxed out, and as far as classic cars are concerned, it's one of the fastest road cars built before 1970 in the entire game. Next up, we have the Chevrolet Chevelle. The Chevelle is a relatively new addition to GT7, and when it was announced, I was extremely excited as this is easily one of my favorite muscle cars. Historically, the heavier and larger style muscle cars don't fare well in GT7. I can think of a couple of Dodges that fit that build. However, the Chevelle is definitely an exception to this rule. It can put down the power quite well for the amount of power it has, and the lateral grip through mid-speed corners is impressive for how little downforce it has. For a 730 pp car, it's not overwhelmingly impressive in the grand scheme of things, but for a car from the early 70s, it's definitely a step above most muscle cars in this game. It took me a while to finally drive this car, but now that I have, I can't wait to run it in some lobby races. And last but not least, we have the Chevrolet Corvette C7 GR3 Road Car. Normally, I don't have a lot to say about GR3 road cars, at least not a lot of good things to say, but honestly, this one wasn't too bad. It has great aerodynamics aerodynamic grip and solid acceleration. It's very easy to drive, and much of this setup is reminiscent of what I would put on the GR3 race car. What tends to let the GR3 road cars down in general is their lack of weight reduction. This Corvette tips the scales at well over 3,200 pounds, which unfortunately limits it significantly in low speed corners. The overall lap time potential is solid for 700 pp, but certainly not on the level of a detuned, downforce manipulated meta car. Speaking of downforce manipulation to lower your performance points rating, I recommend removing all of the front downforce and lowering the horsepower as little as possible. If done correctly, this car can find good success at 650 pp, but for me, I enjoy it the most at 700, even if it's not the fastest for that kind of racing. So now that we've made it to the end of this video, I've decided to add something for these manufacturer-based tuning guides, and that's a grade or a rating for the manufacturer that I'm reviewing. Previous manufacturer videos in which I didn't do a grade, you could see those on the graphics here. But for Chevrolet, I'm going to give the rating a B+. I would say overall, Chevy is lacking in the race car department. The Group 4, while it's better tuned than it is on BOP, it's not amazing. And the Group 3 is a fantastic car, but once again, it's not a massive standout. The road cars, however, especially the newer Corvettes and the newer Camaros, definitely catapult this car into being an above average brand, in my opinion, in Gran Turismo 7, hence the B+ rating. You guys should let me know what you think about Chevrolet and Gran Turismo 7. Do you generally enjoy their cars? And will having a good setup on these cars definitely change your outlook on wanting to drive them? But regardless, I really hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like and comment and let me know which manufacturer I should do next. I'm always taking into consideration what people are saying, and that will kind of decide where I decide to go next with my videos. But regardless, without letting this drag on too long, I hope you guys have a fantastic night. It's been your boy Dude, and I'm out. Peace.